Republican Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, he sides with the president on pulling U.S. troops from northern Syria. Ask you about this. You might be President Trump's biggest supporter when it comes to the move to withdraw U.S. service members from northern Syria. What advice did you offer the president before he made this decision?
He and I didn't talk one-on-one on it. This was his decision, but I agree completely that it was the best thing not only for our troops, but it's also the best way to adhere to the Constitution. The Constitution says you don't declare a war unless Congress votes on it. And who are we going to declare war against? Our ally Turkey, the Free Syrian Army that used to be our ally, Assad. It's a sort of a messy situation, but he was told by the Turks that they were coming one way or another. And they had 50 troops. 50 troops don't stop 10,000 troops. You don't go to war with 50 troops. I think he made the right decision. I'm reminded of Beirut when we made the wrong decision and had 300 Marines in a barracks that weren't well protected. I think if 50 troops had been massacred in there, then we'd be in an enormous war. So I think he made the right decision.
You really think that Erdogan would have sent the Turks across the border with U.S. service members? I mean, that's the only thing that had kept them from attacking before.
Well, no, I don't think so. I think that what you found is in the early footage you saw, and I think you all showed some of this footage, that you saw some of our special operations teams having bombs still dropping very close to them.
Right.
So they didn't seem to be deterred even though we still had soldiers in the region. So I think it was strategically the best thing to do. But also, here's the thing that may end up happening. This may be the best thing that ever happened to the Kurds because they need a protector in Syria that's willing to stay. We had been preventing having them talk to Assad. Now they've made an alliance with Assad, and the irony of this is it may end up being the best thing that ever happened to them. If Assad and Erdogan can now have a truce and Assad will agree to patrol the Syrian side of this, there's a possibility that the Kurds could have an autonomous region similar to what they have in Iraq.
That seems like very wishful thinking, if you don't mind my saying.
We'll see, Jake. So nobody knows.
The president's former point man on ISIS said today that, quote, U.S. personnel have been scrambling to evacuate positions surrounded by hostile Turkish-backed opposition forces. They are evacuating under duress and then bombing positions so nobody can seize them. Do you have any concerns about, forget the idea of withdrawing U.S. forces, we understand that you support that. Do you ever understand about the way many people feel this was rash, it was sudden, it was not done in consultation with the Pentagon, it was not done in consultation with the State Department, with U.S. allies, and there are Kurds who are innocent civilians who have been killed by the Turks and the Turkish-backed militias.
He said from the very beginning our goal was to wipe out ISIS, and we did. Our goal was not to create a homeland for the Kurds.
But ISIS prisoners are getting free out of the prisoner.
Well, if you want to have a homeland for the Kurds, it might take 100,000 troops. That's not what we signed up for. That's not what he said we were for. And I'm not for putting that kind of troops into an area. See, here's the irony. The left hated the Iraq War and hated George Bush for it. A Syrian war where we went in and create a homeland for the Kurds would be just as messy as the Iraq War. So I think the left needs to get over their hatred of President Trump and say, you know what, do we want another messy war in the Middle East? It used to be the left was against war in the Middle East. What happened to the left?
But what I'm asking about, though, is if there wasn't a better and more measured and more programmatic way to do this with planning as opposed to just like get them out right now.
I guess I have never seen so much hyperventilating over moving 50 soldiers. Normally, the Lindsey Grahams of this world would say Article 2 gives the president the authority to do whatever he wants, and we don't question the president because he has latitude. Now Lindsey Graham and all the War Caucus are up in arms on both sides of the aisle saying, oh my goodness, President Trump moved 50 soldiers. Well, he may well have prevented them from dying in a massacre and drawing us into a big, huge war with 5 different parties in it.
It's not just we should just note, it's not just the war hawks, the way you described Lindsey Graham. There was just this major vote in the House in which it was overwhelmingly rebuking President Trump, including the majority of House Republicans.
I would say that the majority of leadership on the Republican and the Democrat side are interventionists. They are people who believe, for example...
Not just the leadership, the entire... It's like, it was like 360.
But here, I'll give you an example. The president said we should leave Afghanistan. Mitch McConnell and all the Republican leadership and the Democrat leadership voted to rebuke the president, saying it would be precipitous to leave after 19 years. This is the prevailing swamp opinion. Republican and Democrats are unified in being in support of war, support of intervention, and support of never going home.
Do you have any concern about the ISIS prisoners that we're now told there is a great risk of them escaping? And President Trump's response was, well, they're not going to come here. They're just going to go to Europe.
Well, here's my response. Everybody says, well, the Kurds are going to use this and they're going to release them on purpose now.
No, no.
Why?
President Trump said that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying,
Why would the Kurds? The Kurds live there. The Kurds are the ones who have seen the way ISIS behaved. Why would the Kurds release these people?
I'm not saying
going to release
purposefully release them, but do you not have any concerns? There are
No, I do, but I'm actually a little bit reassured with the alliance with Syria and with Assad that it'll be less chaotic. And I predict
whose alliance with Assad?
With the Kurds allying with Assad. My prediction is this, and I may be wrong. Predictions are wrong. But I think the Turks are going to slow their advance, and I think it's going to come to a standstill. And I predict that there actually will be a discussion between Erdogan and Assad, and I think there's a possibility we can get the Turks to pull back within Turkey.
But last question. I mean, the Russians and Turkey and Assad could have done something about ISIS to begin with, and they didn't, and that's why the U.S. went in.
But here's the thing is, the U.S. has been preventing any kind of discussion because it's been the policy of the War Caucus to have Assad removed. This is the John Bolton, this is the Lindsey Graham move. They believe in regime change. They want to get rid of Assad, and until Assad goes, but also the Hillary Clinton group wants this too. So it's really left and right saying we have to have regime change.
Well, the troops weren't there for regime change. They were there to fight ISIS. But I do.
Initially, they were, but everybody kept changing their point of view on what they were there for.
I will get a nasty note from your public optimistic Rand Paul. I don't think I've ever heard you sound that way before. The book is The Case Against Socialism. Come back. We have lots more questions about Syria, not to mention Ukraine. I do have more questions. Do you support the withdrawal of the U.S.?
Yeah, no. I like Senator Paul and Senator Tim Kaine and others. I think there should be a vote on authorization to use of military force. I don't think we should put America's men and women in harm's way without a robust debate in the Senate, and I think in the House and the Congress, and people should really.
So you think it was too rash?
I think it was rash, but I think the question is this: I hear Chuck Schumer saying, Turkey's not our ally, these guys are our ally. What are we there for? What's our objective? We should know what we're there for. What are kids dying for there?
It's a fair question.
I think if I'm President Trump and I'm watching that, I'm liking what I see, Rich.
Absolutely. To borrow a phrase from my dad, the members of Congress are putting the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable. They're putting their focus on the wrong thing. These are swing voters who think that Congress should be focusing on retirement security and health care and making that affordable, immigration. And for them, the whole impeachment thing is a distraction.
In other words, they don't think that Congress can walk and chew gum at the same time, that if all of a sudden they're sucked in on impeachment, nothing else is going to get done. Although, by the way, that assumes things would otherwise get done. And, Mitch McConnell is here to say he's not letting that happen anyway.
That's exactly right. There's a longstanding concern among voters I've interviewed over years that nothing happens in Congress. And I think the impeachment rising to the level of full national attention further emphasizes their preconceived notion that Congress definitely now can't get anything done.
Here's another stunner from your data. As we said, some of these folks voted for Obama and then Trump. And you have a hypothetical. And you say, okay, you can pick one of the two of those. What's the result?
So we ask a hypothetical in every focus group, and we've now done this over the course of 8 months, 8 separate focus groups. And we ask, if you could vote between Obama and Trump in next year's election, who would you choose? And over the course of the 8 months we've done so far, roughly 2/3, given that choice, would choose President Trump. But among the Obama-Trump voters we interviewed in Youngstown, all 8 would stick with President Trump.
You're telling me they are still with the president?
They are still with the president. They like his America First agenda. They like what he stands for, the way he pushes back on other countries. These are people who the president has won over, and they are still with him. We want their voices to be heard. And in fact, on our website, swingvoterproject.com, you can hear all of their voices across all of these focus groups. It's all up there to watch. And I think if you sit and take the time to listen to them, what you'll hear is that their concerns are real day-to-day concerns, and impeachment is not one of those concerns.